Identity is a major part of who and what makes a person themselves. Identity can stem from a variety of things, such as ethnicity, culture, values, beliefs, and interests. But identity can also stem from a person's gender. We're raised based on our gender. I'm sure you've noticed that a father treats their son differently than they treat their daughter, and the same as with mothers. In today's society, we're beginning to understand that gender is a spectrum. I will focus on women, but I'd like to make it clear that women do not have to be born with female genitalia for them to be women, and that not everyone who has a menstrual cycle or female reproductive organs identifies as a woman. Bodily identity, or personal identity, is the belief of the type of person one is. The reproductive rights of women has been a controversial issue for years. This is because people only tend to focus on the abortion side of reproductive health. Not only do reproductive rights include the right to abortion, but they're also the right to contraceptives and the right to feminine hygiene products. The lack of physical products and lack of choice can lead to issues of bodily identity. In order for you to have a more deep understanding of feminism and the rights women are fighting for, we'll discuss the meanings of terms. Bodily identity refers to how a person sees themselves, while autonomy is the ability one has to make decisions for themselves, or their independence. If someone does not have autonomy or independence, most of the time they won't have a good image of themselves. They'll have a negative view on their self-worth due to their inability to make their own decisions. Bodily identity is an important aspect of a person's life. Without bodily identity, a person would not be the same person. Feminism, as I believe it to be, is the belief of the social, political, and economic equality of all genders, which is not what most people see feminism as. For most people, feminism is the idea of elevating the woman to be higher than men in society. However, feminism is actually elevating women so that men, women, and other genders are all on equal standing. Reproductive rights are rights that which involve the health of the reproductive system and organs and the issue of choice when it comes to children. Contraceptives are methods in which to prevent pregnancy, which falls under both the health of the reproductive system and the choice in having children. It's hard to imagine a time without the birth control pill, but the truth is it's only existed since 1960. Before then, women had a difficult time controlling their own fertility. The choice that the pill brought women changed their bodily identities. They were now able to be more autonomous with their body. The access to contraceptives plays a major role in a young woman's personal identity. It comes from the feelings of autonomy and choice. An issue society is facing today surrounding the right to contraceptives is the minor's right to them. The article, Parental Consent Requirements and Privacy Rights of Minors, the Contraceptive Controversy, from the Harvard Law Review Journal, discusses whether or not minors have the right to contraceptives and why they potentially cannot get access to them. Everyone has the right to privacy under the Constitution. This also applies to minors. Adult women are not the only ones who want to have bodily autonomy and be able to decide for themselves when they have a baby. The author states, quote, "Teenage motherhood involves a host of problems, including adverse physical and psychological effects upon the minor and her baby, the continuing stigma associated with unwed motherhood, and the need to drop out of school," end quote. Minors need the contraceptives in order to prevent teen pregnancy and the effects motherhood has on young girls. Minors have a hard time getting these contraceptives because of the law that parental consent must be approved of. Minors will continue to have sex regardless if they have proper protection. The best way to prevent teen pregnancy would be to properly educate minors on safe sex and give them access to contraceptives. The inability to get these contraceptives can affect the child's autonomy. The child may feel as though their values or rights are not being listened to or taken seriously, and that can have drastic effects on one's self-image and identity. Women still have a difficult time gaining access to contraceptives, even without being a minor. Some contraceptives are expensive and or require doctor visits and prescriptions. Many insurance companies provide coverage for the contraceptives, but not all do. The article, Changes in State Prescription Contraceptive Mandates for Insurers, the Effect on Women's Contraceptive Use, from Perspectives on Sexual and Reproductive Health Journal, investigated whether or not mandated contraceptive coverage in insurance policies increases the amount of women that are prescribed contraceptives, and found that it did. When insurance companies do not cover contraceptives, fewer women are able to have access to them. Without access to contraceptives, women run the risk of unintended pregnancies, which takes away the woman's bodily autonomy and changes her self-image. No longer is she herself. She also has to share her body with another. Her decisions do not just affect her now. Unintended pregnancies can cause women to resent their lives and their decisions, as well as their own character, causing severe damage to their self-image. But contraceptives are not just the only thing women have limited accessibility to. They are also struggling with having access to feminine hygiene products. Around the world, there are women who are still struggling with accessing feminine hygiene products, or menstrual products. Even here in America, there are women who are struggling to get the necessity. Often young girls who do not have access to these products are unable to go to school and get a quality education when they get their periods, because they don't have the products that allow them to continue on about their daily lives and attending school on a daily basis. UNESCO found that 131 million girls are not enrolled in schools around the world. The high cost of menstrual products in parts of the world causes a lack of access to these products. Without these products, girls cannot attend school on the days they have the period, causing them to miss out on education and important social interactions. Also, according to UNESCO, more children, specifically girls, are not enrolled in school during secondary education, or what Americans refer to as middle and high school, than in primary education, which is elementary school. And according to Medicine Net, girls usually get their periods anywhere between 8 and 15 years of age, which is right around the time of secondary schooling. It makes sense why so many more children are out of school during secondary schooling, because half of them have gotten their periods and cannot attend due to the lack of products available to them. The lack of quality education of young girls due to insufficient amounts of menstrual products available to them creates a sense of inadequacy. Girls who do not graduate have a hard time finding decent jobs and rely on their families for support. They feel as though they cannot take care of themselves and thus have a low self-image of themselves. They feel that they have limited autonomy. Some women don't have access to feminine hygiene products because they are too expensive due to the tampon tax, a tax on feminine hygiene products such as tampons and pads. The gender discrimination and sexism displayed by the tampon tax creates issues of bodily identity among women and young girls. With feminine hygiene products seen as a luxury and taxed as such, females begin to feel as though they cannot exert control over their own bodies in ways that they physically cannot. A female cannot control the fact that she has a period. It is simply an act of our biology. The tax messes with our sense of bodily identity. Because of the discriminatory nature of the tax, girls are ashamed of their periods, and that shame can lead to issues of gender identity and how one sees themselves. The lack of education and proper tools to deal with menstrual health can have lasting effects on girls. These effects can be dropping out of school early and a lower self-image. Without proper tools and education, girls can develop a lower image, a lower bodily identity. The lack of accessibility to these important products generates lower self-worth in women. Without contraceptives and menstrual products, women are unable to control their bodies in a way that gives them freedom and mobility to continue on their daily lives. The bodily identity of a woman is comprised of her decisions and her mistakes, which all stem from her choices and what she makes of those choices. Bodily identity has a massive effect on one's self-image, and when there's no access to basic necessities like menstrual products or access to choices to prevent unintended pregnancies, this affects how a woman feels about her overall self. When these choices are taken away, a part of her identity is also taken away. She can no longer be autonomous for the choice. The decision was made for her. How can she grow and change as a person if she is not given the choice? Contraceptives need to be made more widely available for all age ranges and social classes. Feminine hygiene products also need to be made more available, including reducing the cost or getting rid of the tampon tax, as well as just making them more available around the globe in general. The lack of access or availability to contraceptives and feminine hygiene products lead to choices of women already being made for them. Thus, they lose a part of themselves. Thanks for watching.